1973, a Hollywood party. John Wayne, the ultimate American tough guy, had been drinking and was holding court with a group of younger actors. The conversation turned to the growing popularity of martial arts films, and Duke didn't hide his opinion. It's all fake. Choreographed dancing. Real fighting is what I do in my westerns, straight punches, brawling. All this kung fu stuff is just Hollywood trickery for audiences who don't know better. Someone in the crowd mentioned Bruce Lee, whose film Enter the Dragon was breaking box office records. Duke doubled down. Bruce Lee? He's an actor playing tough. Put him in a real fight against someone who knows real combat, and we'd see how fake those martial arts really are. The next morning, Duke received a phone call from Bruce Lee's representative with a message. Bruce would like to meet with Mr. Wayne privately to demonstrate that martial arts are very real. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Bruce will come to Wayne's home. What happened in that meeting would shock John Wayne, earn Bruce Lee his respect, and result in an apology that Duke would remember for the rest of his life, along with a newfound understanding that real skill doesn't need to look like what he'd spent 40 years doing on screen. Before we explore this legendary encounter between two icons from different worlds, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This isn't just about who's tougher. It's about respecting expertise you don't understand, having the humility to admit when you're wrong, and learning that strength comes in many forms. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, and let's begin. John Wayne's world. By 1973, John Wayne was 66 years old and had been Hollywood's definition of masculinity and toughness for over 30 years. His cowboy and military characters had shaped how America thought about heroism, strength, and what it meant to be a man. Wayne's on-screen fighting style was straightforward. Big haymaker punches, wrestling moves, brawling. It was raw, powerful, and perfectly suited to the westerns and war films he made. Audiences loved it because it looked real, looked possible, looked like how actual tough guys would fight. But Duke's view of martial arts was shaped by what he'd seen in Hollywood. Highly choreographed sequences that emphasized flash over function. He'd watched martial arts demonstrations that looked impressive, but seemed impractical for actual combat. To Wayne, raised in the straightforward brawling tradition, all the kicks and poses seemed like unnecessary theatrics. Wayne also represented an older generation's skepticism toward Eastern fighting styles. Many men of his era believed that real fighting was Western-style boxing and wrestling, and that martial arts were exotic but ultimately ineffective. It was a view rooted in cultural bias as much as any actual analysis of effectiveness. Bruce Lee's rise. Bruce Lee, meanwhile, was revolutionizing how the world saw martial arts. At 32, he'd become an international phenomenon through his films and his philosophy of Jeet Kune Do, a martial arts system that emphasized practicality, efficiency, and adapting to reality rather than rigid forms. Bruce had spent years fighting against Hollywood's stereotypical portrayal of martial artists as mystical, exotic caricatures. He wanted to show martial arts as legitimate fighting systems developed over centuries, as effective in real combat as any Western fighting method. Bruce had also dealt with skepticism and dismissal from Western fighters before. He'd faced down challengers who thought kung fu was fake. He'd fought and won against people who assumed that because he was small, 5 feet 7 inches, 140 pounds, and trained in exotic martial arts, he couldn't handle real fighting. But Bruce never sought out confrontations for ego. He only fought when necessary to defend martial arts legitimacy or when challenged directly. He understood that changing minds required demonstrating effectiveness, not just talking about it. The controversial comments. Wayne's comments at the Hollywood party were reported in the trades within days. Someone at the party had told a gossip columnist, and suddenly John Wayne calls martial arts fake, was being discussed in entertainment circles. For Bruce, this wasn't just about defending his own reputation. Wayne's comments, coming from such an influential figure, reinforced stereotypes about martial arts being ineffective. It undermined everything Bruce had been working toward, legitimizing Eastern martial arts in the West. Bruce's friends advised him to ignore it. Duke's old school. He'll never change his mind. Why bother? But Bruce saw an opportunity. If he could demonstrate martial arts effectiveness to John Wayne, the symbol of American toughness, and if Wayne had the character to acknowledge what he learned, it could change perceptions throughout Hollywood and beyond. The challenge. Bruce's approach was carefully considered. He didn't issue a public challenge or make threats. He had his representative call Wayne's assistant with a polite but firm message. Mr. Lee would like to meet privately with Mr. Wayne to demonstrate that martial arts are practical and effective fighting systems, not Hollywood choreography. Mr. Lee respects Mr. Wayne's accomplishments, but believes Mr. Wayne may have misunderstood what real martial arts training involves. Would tomorrow at 2 p.m. at Mr. Wayne's home be convenient? The message was respectful but direct. It gave Wayne an out. He could decline the meeting. But it also put Wayne in a position where declining would seem like backing down from his own bold statements. Wayne's assistant delivered the message, expecting Duke to dismiss it. Instead, Wayne was quiet for a moment, then said, "Tell him yes. 2 o'clock tomorrow. But tell him this isn't a fight. I'm too old and too smart for that. He wants to demonstrate something, I'll watch. But I'm not going to roll around on the ground with some kung fu guy." The meeting was set. The arrival. The next day, Bruce Lee arrived at John Wayne's home in Newport Beach precisely at 2 p.m. He came alone. No entourage, no cameras, no witnesses except whoever Wayne chose to have present. This wasn't about publicity or humiliation. This was about education. Wayne greeted Bruce at the door. Despite his comments about martial arts, Duke was gracious in person. "Mr. Lee, come in. I appreciate you coming all this way. Thank you for agreeing to meet, Mr. Wayne. I respect your work, but I wanted to address what you said about martial arts." They went to Wayne's large living room. Wayne had invited 2 friends to witness the meeting, his stunt coordinator and a former Marine who'd trained with Wayne on war films. Both were skeptical of martial arts but curious about what Bruce would show. The conversation begins. Wayne offered Bruce a drink, which Bruce declined. Then Wayne got straight to the point. "Look, Bruce, I'm sure you're very talented at what you do. But what I said stands. Martial arts as portrayed in films isn't realistic combat. All those high kicks, spinning moves, standing still in poses, that's for movies, not real fighting." Bruce nodded calmly. "Mr. Wayne, you're right that what you see in films is often exaggerated for entertainment. Just like your westerns show gunfights that aren't exactly how real gunfights happened, martial arts films emphasize what looks good on camera." "Exactly my point. But," Bruce interrupted gently, "what I'm going to show you isn't film martial arts. This is real martial arts as they're actually practiced and applied in combat. Would you be willing to see a demonstration?" Wayne, feeling confident, agreed. "Sure. Show me what you've got." The first demonstration. Bruce asked if Wayne would be willing to throw a punch at him. Not seriously, just to demonstrate. Wayne, at 6 feet 4 inches and 230 pounds, stood and threw a slow-motion right cross, the kind of punch his cowboy characters threw in dozens of films. What happened next was so fast that Wayne's friends weren't entirely sure what they'd seen. Bruce didn't block the punch in any traditional sense. He redirected Wayne's arm with minimal contact, simultaneously moving to an angle where Wayne couldn't punch him again with the other hand. In less than a second, Bruce was positioned where he could have struck Wayne in several vulnerable spots: throat, eyes, knee. But instead he just tapped them lightly with his fingers. "In a real situation," Bruce explained calmly, "those strikes would end the fight. I didn't need to block your punch or match your strength. I used your momentum, found an angle, and attacked points that size doesn't protect." Wayne looked at his stunt coordinator, who looked equally surprised. "Do that again," Wayne said. "I wasn't ready." They repeated the drill 5 more times, with Wayne getting progressively more serious about trying to hit Bruce. Each time, Bruce demonstrated the same principle, using angles, speed, and targeting vulnerable points rather than trying to match Wayne's size and power. The speed demonstration. "You're quick," Wayne admitted, impressed but still skeptical. "But in a real fight, you wouldn't be starting from a ready position. Someone would surprise you." Bruce smiled. "Good point. Mr. Wayne, throw a punch at me whenever you want. Don't tell me when. Just throw it when I'm not looking." Bruce turned his back to Wayne and started talking casually about the weather. Wayne glanced at his friends, shrugged, and threw a quick jab toward Bruce's shoulder. Not hard, but without warning. Bruce's hand came up and deflected it before Wayne's fist was halfway there. Bruce hadn't been looking, but somehow he'd sensed or heard the punch coming. "Peripheral awareness and sensitivity to movement," Bruce explained. "Years of training teach you to respond to threats before you consciously register them. It's not magic, it's conditioning." The practical applications. Wayne was genuinely interested now. The skepticism was giving way to curiosity. "All right, I'm impressed by your speed. But show me how this works against someone bigger and stronger. I'm 90 pounds heavier than you. How do your techniques handle that?" Bruce had been waiting for this question. Mr. Wayne, may I demonstrate on you directly? I won't hurt you, but I need to show you something physical to answer that question properly. Wayne agreed, standing up. Bruce asked Wayne to grab him, a simple bear hug from behind, using his size advantage. Wayne wrapped his arms around Bruce, lifting him slightly off the ground. What happened next took less than 2 seconds. Bruce dropped his weight, twisted in a specific way, struck Wayne's forearm at a pressure point, and suddenly Wayne's grip released involuntarily and Bruce was behind Wayne in a position where he could have applied a choke. Leverage, anatomy, and targeting weak points, Bruce explained, releasing Wayne immediately. Your size is an advantage in a brawl. But martial arts are designed to overcome size differences by attacking structures that fail regardless of how strong you are. Joints only bend certain ways. Nerves create involuntary responses. The throat is vulnerable on everyone. Wayne's realization. What struck Wayne wasn't just Bruce's technique. It was his control. Every demonstration could have hurt Wayne seriously, but Bruce had perfect restraint. He was demonstrating real combat effectiveness while being absolutely safe. That level of control suggested genuine mastery. Wayne sat down heavily, processing what he'd just experienced. I'll be damned. That's not what I expected. Most people don't expect it, Bruce said without arrogance. Because films, both Western and Eastern, don't show the reality of effective combat. They show what entertains audiences. Real martial arts, like real boxing or real military combat training, look different from the movies. Wayne's stunt coordinator spoke up. Bruce, what you just showed, is that special to Kung Fu? Or could other martial arts do similar things? Many martial arts have similar principles, Bruce explained. Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, Aikido, various Kung Fu styles, even some Western martial arts like Savate. The common thread is using physics, anatomy, and technique to overcome raw power. Mr. Wayne's Western-style brawling works in certain contexts. Martial arts work in other contexts. They're different tools, not one being fake and the other real. The apology forms. Wayne was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that Bruce hadn't expected. Bruce, I owe you an apology. I spoke out of ignorance. I assumed martial arts were just movie tricks because what I'd seen in films was exaggerated. But what you've shown me is real skill, maybe more refined than what I've done in my career. Mr. Wayne, you don't need to. Yes, I do, Wayne interrupted. I made a public statement calling what you do fake. That was wrong. I didn't understand it, and instead of keeping my mouth shut, I insulted an entire discipline and everyone who practices it seriously. Bruce nodded, appreciating Wayne's candor. I respect that, Mr. Wayne. Not many people would admit they were wrong, especially to someone younger and from a different background. I'm old enough to know that admitting you're wrong doesn't make you weak, Wayne said. Staying wrong does. The conversation continues. What started as a demonstration turned into a 2-hour conversation. Wayne asked Bruce detailed questions about martial arts philosophy, training methods, and real-world application. Bruce explained Jeet Kune Do's principles, taking what works, discarding what doesn't, adapting to reality. Wayne was particularly interested in the mental discipline aspects. So it's not just physical techniques? The physical is just the surface, Bruce explained. Real martial arts training is about understanding yourself, controlling your emotions, responding rather than reacting. The techniques are tools, but the real art is in the mind that applies them. This resonated with Wayne, who'd spent decades thinking about what made his characters work. That's like acting, in a way. The technique matters, but what you bring to it mentally is what makes it real. Exactly, Bruce said, pleased that Wayne understood. Both require discipline, self-awareness, and years of refinement. There's no shortcut to mastery in either field. The public apology. The next day, Wayne did something he rarely did. He called a press conference to correct a previous statement. Entertainment reporters gathered, curious about what could prompt John Wayne to call a press conference about anything other than a film. I'm here to publicly apologize to Bruce Lee and to martial artists everywhere, Wayne began. Earlier this week, I made comments calling martial arts fake and choreographed. Those comments were ignorant and disrespectful. He continued. Yesterday, Bruce Lee came to my home and demonstrated real martial arts technique. What he showed me wasn't movie fighting. It was genuine combat skill developed over years of serious training. I spoke about something I didn't understand, and I was wrong. The reporters were shocked. John Wayne publicly admitting he was wrong was unprecedented. Bruce Lee is a legitimate martial artist and a skilled fighter, Wayne continued. His techniques are practical and effective. Martial arts aren't fake. My understanding of them was fake. I apologize for my comments and for disrespecting a discipline I didn't take the time to understand. Bruce's response. Bruce was gracious when reporters asked him about Wayne's apology. Mr. Wayne is a true gentleman. It takes real courage to admit you were wrong, especially publicly. I have enormous respect for him, not just as an actor, but as a person willing to learn and grow. Bruce also used the moment to educate. What happened between Mr. Wayne and me shows that strength and skill come in many forms. Mr. Wayne's characters represent one type of toughness. Martial arts represent another. Both are valid. Both are real. We don't need to diminish one to appreciate the other. The unlikely friendship. In the weeks that followed, Wayne and Bruce developed an unlikely friendship. Wayne would call Bruce with questions about martial arts philosophy. Bruce would ask Wayne about film acting and screen presence. Wayne even visited Bruce's training school in Los Angeles, watching Bruce teach and being impressed by the discipline and dedication of the students. "This is serious business," Wayne told reporters after his visit. "These people train like athletes and soldiers. There's nothing fake about it." Bruce, in turn, talked about how Wayne's screen presence and authenticity were their own form of mastery. "Duke makes everything look effortless," Bruce said. "That's years of craft. Same as martial arts. The master makes it look simple." The industry impact. Wayne's public apology and his subsequent friendship with Bruce had ripple effects throughout Hollywood. If John Wayne, the ultimate tough guy, respected Bruce Lee in martial arts, then maybe Hollywood should take martial arts seriously as legitimate fighting systems, not just exotic movie tricks. Producers and directors started approaching martial arts scenes with more authenticity. Bruce was consulted more often on fight choreography. Eastern martial arts began being portrayed with more respect in Western films. More importantly, the incident challenged Hollywood's casual dismissal of things they didn't understand. Wayne's willingness to admit ignorance and learn set an example for others. The power of intellectual humility. John Wayne's apology to Bruce Lee teaches us profound lessons about growth, respect, and true strength. 1. Admitting you're wrong is strength, not weakness. Wayne could have quietly backed away from his comments without acknowledging his error. Instead, he publicly admitted his ignorance. That takes more courage than any on-screen fight scene. Facing the truth about yourself and sharing it with the world. 2. Don't dismiss what you don't understand. Wayne made the classic mistake of assuming that because he didn't understand something, it wasn't valid. His decades of experience in one type of fighting made him believe he understood all fighting. Real wisdom is knowing the limits of your knowledge. 3. Be willing to learn at any age. Wayne was 66 when Bruce taught him about martial arts. Age and accomplishment hadn't made him too proud to learn. That openness to new understanding is what keeps people growing their entire lives. 4. Respect expertise even when it's different from yours. Wayne's expertise was in screen presence and Western-style fighting for films. Bruce's expertise was in martial arts and efficient combat. Both were real, both were valuable, both were different. Respecting expertise means acknowledging that mastery comes in many forms. 5. Public mistakes deserve public corrections. Wayne's original comments were public, so his apology was public. He didn't quietly send Bruce a note. He held a press conference. That's integrity, matching the scope of your apology to the scope of your mistake. The broader truth. This story reveals something important about how we think about toughness and strength. Our culture often equates strength with stubbornness. Never backing down, never admitting error, never showing vulnerability. But Wayne's story shows that real strength includes intellectual humility. Knowing when you're wrong. Being willing to learn. Changing your mind when presented with new information. These are signs of strength, not weakness. Modern application. You probably won't meet Bruce Lee or have your misconceptions physically demonstrated. But you'll face moments when you've made incorrect statements about things you don't understand. Different cultures' practices that seem strange to you. Technologies or methods you've dismissed without investigation. People's lifestyles or choices you've judged from ignorance. Fields of expertise outside your own that you've underestimated. Wayne shows us how to handle these moments. Listen to people who actually know what they're talking about. Be willing to have your assumptions challenged. Admit when you've learned something that changes your view. Make public corrections for public mistakes. Understand that learning never stops, regardless of age or status. The tragedy. Heartbreakingly, Bruce Lee died just months after this incident, in July 1973, at age 32. John Wayne was deeply saddened by Bruce's death and spoke about it in interviews. "I only knew him briefly, but he taught me important lessons about respect and understanding. The world lost something special when he died." Wayne kept a photo of himself and Bruce from their meeting. He'd occasionally tell the story of how this small, young martial artist had taught an old cowboy star about humility and respect. Your turn. If this story changed how you think about admitting you're wrong and learning from unexpected teachers, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Share this with someone who needs to hear that intellectual humility is strength, not weakness. Drop a comment. Have you ever had to publicly admit you were wrong about something? How did it feel? What did you learn? Remember, John Wayne called martial arts fake. Bruce Lee challenged him to a private demonstration. 24 hours later, Wayne held a press conference to apologize and admit his ignorance. That's real toughness, not the kind that never backs down, but the kind that admits error, learns from it, and grows. Wayne's greatest act of strength wasn't any fight scene he filmed. It was saying "I was wrong" and meaning it. See you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring stories that remind us that real strength includes admitting weakness, real wisdom includes acknowledging ignorance, and real growth comes from being willing to learn, especially from people and places we least expect.